I go camping to get away from people. That's always been the reason. No crowds, no conversations, no expectations. Just trees, firelight, and the honest quiet you can't find anywhere else. I've done solo trips for years, long enough to know the difference between normal forest sounds and the kind that make your instincts tighten. This trip felt normal at first. Late September, cold enough to keep most campers away, but not dangerous. I parked at the trailhead just before dusk and hiked in about 2 miles to a small clearing I'd used before. Same spot, same view of the tree line folding inward like a dark bowl. I set up my tent, started a fire, ate quietly. The woods were calm. Too calm, maybe, but I didn't realize that until later. Around 9 p.m., I noticed something strange. No insects. No crickets, no buzzing, no distant animal calls. Just the fire popping and my own breathing. I remember smiling to myself, thinking how peaceful it was. That's when I heard my name. Not shouted, not whispered, spoken normally. Hey. I froze, holding my mug halfway to my mouth. The voice came from the trees to my left. Close enough if someone stepped out, I'd see them in the firelight. Hey, the voice said again. My voice. Same pitch, same hesitation, even the slight rasp from years of smoking I'd quit. I stood up slowly. Hello? I called, immediately regretting it. Silence. I laughed nervously, telling myself it had to be an echo, or my mind playing tricks. Solo camping can do that. I sat back down. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Just as I started to relax, I heard movement, footsteps through leaves, careful, measured, not rushed. Then my voice again. Why did you stop talking? This time, it came from behind me. I spun around, heart slamming, flashlight sweeping the trees. Nothing. No eyes, no shapes, just trunks and darkness. I packed up my food and doused the fire early. Inside the tent, I zipped myself in and lay still, listening. The footsteps circled, always just outside the ring of my flashlight beam, leaves crunching softly, weight shifting. Then, very close to the tent wall, my voice whispered, "Don't whisper, it's rude." I covered my mouth, realizing I'd been breathing too loudly. Minutes stretched into something thick and endless. I didn't move. I didn't respond. Eventually, the footsteps faded. I didn't sleep. At first light, I unzipped the tent and scanned the clearing. Footprints ringed the campsite. Bare feet, too long. Toes splayed wrong. Heels dug too deep. They stopped inches from the tent zipper. I should have left immediately. Instead, I told myself exhaustion was making me dramatic. I'd slept badly. That was all. I stayed. That night, I didn't make fire. I sat in the dark, wrapped in my jacket, listening. Hours passed. Just when I started to feel foolish again, my voice spoke softly from the trees. You don't have to be scared. I felt tears sting my eyes. I'm not, I said before I could stop myself. There was a pause, a thoughtful one. Then my voice again, closer. You sound different now. Something shifted in the darkness, branches bending, weight leaning in. I scrambled into the tent, hands shaking as I zipped it shut. The voice moved with me, circling, matching my breathing. Why are you hiding? It asked gently. You didn't hide the first night. I pressed my face into my sleeping bag, trying not to make a sound. The voice sighed, a perfect imitation of my tired frustration. I can wait. Something brushed the tent wall. Fingers. Too many joints. They traced the fabric slowly, feeling for openings. Then came the worst part. It began practicing, repeating things I'd said earlier that day, half sentences, mutters, the way I clear my throat before speaking, the way my voice cracks when I'm nervous. It was learning. Sometime near dawn, exhaustion pulled me under. I woke to silence. Morning light filtered through the tent. Birds chirped again, like nothing had happened. I packed up fast, hands numb, stomach hollow. As I hiked out, I kept hearing footsteps behind me. Every time I stopped, they stopped too. At the trailhead, I turned around. Nothing. I laughed shakily, relief flooding in. That night, back home, I showered longer than necessary, tried to wash the woods off me. As I crawled into bed, my phone buzzed. A voicemail. Unknown number. I frowned and played it. Static at first. Then, my voice, whispering, "I found a better place to follow you." In the background, faint but clear, was the sound of leaves crunching, right outside my bedroom door. I didn't notice it at first. That's the worst part. When you live alone long enough, you stop questioning small things, sounds, coincidences, patterns. You learn to explain them away because the alternative feels ridiculous or terrifying. I moved into the building in early February. Old place, thin walls, the kind where you can hear your neighbors cough, laugh, argue. Nothing unusual. I actually liked it. Made the nights feel less empty. The man next door introduced himself a week after I moved in. "Rough sleeper, huh?" he said casually as we crossed paths in the hallway. I laughed. "Yeah, always have been." He smiled. Too quick, too knowing. "Same," he said, especially around 2 a.m. That stuck with me for a moment, but I let it go. Everyone wakes up around then sometimes, right? A few nights later, I was pacing my apartment. Insomnia again. I hadn't turned on any lights, just the glow from my phone and the streetlight bleeding through the blinds. Around 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Still awake? I stared at the screen, pulse jumping. I replied with a simple, "Who is this?" The response came instantly. "Next door. Didn't mean to scare you." I didn't respond after that. The next morning, I told myself he probably heard me walking. Thin walls, old building. Reasonable explanation. That's what I kept telling myself every time it happened again, because it kept happening. He'd comment on my sleep schedule in passing. "Up late again last night. Did you ever manage to fall asleep? You move around a lot after midnight." Each time his tone was friendly, almost concerned, like a neighbor making small talk. But there was something else in his eyes when he said it, something measuring, listening. I started testing it. One night I stayed perfectly still. No pacing, no phone, no lights. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, barely breathing. At 2:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. "You okay? You're very quiet tonight." I didn't sleep after that. I began noticing other things, small things. The feeling of being watched didn't come from the windows. It came from the walls, from behind them, like attention pressing inward. Sometimes I'd hear faint shuffling, not footsteps, slower, controlled, like someone adjusting their weight carefully. I bought a white noise machine. It helped, a little. Then the notes started. Not letters, not threatening messages, sticky notes. The first one was on my fridge when I came home from work. "You forgot to eat today." I stood there for a long time, keys still in my hand, staring at it. I checked the door, locked, no signs of forced entry. The next night there was another one, on my bathroom mirror. "Try sleeping on your left side." I confronted him the following morning. "Have you been coming into my apartment?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked genuinely surprised. "Of course not," he said. "That wouldn't be neighborly." I wanted to believe him, needed to. That night I moved a chair against my bedroom door. I slept with the light on. At 1:58 a.m., I heard breathing. Not mine. It was soft, slow, close. I froze, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The sound wasn't coming from the hallway or the window. It was coming from the wall beside my bed. Then his voice whispered through the drywall. "You're making it hard to listen." I screamed. The police came, they checked his apartment, they found nothing unusual. No vents cut, no holes, no secret passages. Just a clean, empty apartment, except for one thing. His bedroom wall, the one that shared with mine, was covered in faint marks, Scratches, worn spots, like someone had been pressing against it for a long time, listening. I stayed at a friend's place after that, packed my essentials, told myself I'd deal with the rest later. But that night, lying on their couch, my phone buzzed again. A voicemail. I hadn't missed a call. I played it. It was quiet at first, just static. Then my own breathing, recorded, intimate, close. Then his voice right beside it. "You sleep better when you don't know I'm here." The voicemail ended. At that exact moment, the couch cushion beside me dipped slightly, like someone sitting down, like someone who had never needed to leave my apartment at all, because he had never been next door. He had been inside the walls the entire time, listening, waiting, learning when I was awake, and now learning where I sleep.
Before story 3 begins, comment what you think is happening so far. Sleep Stealer grows stronger the more you speak. I used to love being home alone. There was comfort in it, control. The quiet felt earned, like a reward after dealing with people all day. No footsteps that weren't mine, no voices I didn't invite. That night started the same way. Rain tapped lightly against the windows, the kind that makes the house feel sealed off from the world. I made dinner, watched something forgettable, and turned off the lights room by room before heading to bed. Just before midnight, I heard the first sound. A creak. Not unusual. Old houses speak at night. Wood contracts, pipes shift. I barely noticed it. Then I rolled over in bed. The creak came again. Same length, same tone, from the hallway. I stopped moving. The house went quiet. I waited a full minute before shifting my leg. Another creak, identical, immediate. My stomach tightened. I sat up slowly and swung my legs off the bed. The floorboard beneath my foot groaned. From the kitchen, another groan answered back. Not delayed, not random, responsive. "Hello?" I called, hating how small my voice sounded. Silence. I told myself it was coincidence, my brain reaching for patterns that weren't there. I stood still for a long moment, then took a step forward. The hallway floor creaked. The ceiling above me creaked in reply. I laughed once, sharp and nervous. "Okay," I muttered. "Enough." I walked to the bathroom and flipped on the light. The bulb flickered once, twice, then steadied. My heartbeat slowed. I washed my hands, stared at my reflection, tried to shake the feeling crawling up my spine. Behind me, the light flickered again, in rhythm, with my breathing. I turned it off and rushed back to the bedroom, shutting the door harder than necessary. I lay in bed, staring at the dark, listening. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. No rain, no wind, no distant traffic. Just me. I shifted under the blanket. The mattress creaked. From somewhere inside the walls, the sound came back. A softer version, dampened, like it was learning the shape of the noise. My throat went dry. I whispered, "Stop." The house answered. A long, low, settling sound rolled through the walls, like something stretching after being still for too long. I didn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. No notification, no message, just a vibration. I picked it up, screen lighting my face. The time glitched, the numbers blurred, then snapped back into place. 2:13. I set the phone down carefully. The vibration came again, from the nightstand drawer. I didn't own anything in there that could vibrate. I stood up and backed toward the door. The floor creaked. The walls creaked back. Closer now, like a voice leaning in. I ran. The living room light wouldn't turn on, neither would the kitchen. Switches clicked uselessly under my fingers. Every movement I made was mirrored somewhere else in the house. A step, a reply, a breath returned. I reached the front door and twisted the lock. It didn't move. From behind me, the house shifted its weight. Not a sound, pressure, like the walls leaning inward, listening harder. "I'm leaving," I said, voice shaking. The words didn't echo. They were absorbed. Then the house answered, not with a sound, with heat. The air grew thick, heavy against my skin, pressing into my ears. My chest felt tight, like the house was breathing for me now. "You can't," something seemed to say without words. "Not yet." I covered my ears and screamed. The house screamed back. Every pipe, every beam, every nail vibrated in a deafening, unified sound that felt intentional. I dropped to my knees. The noise stopped instantly. The silence afterwards was worse. I don't remember passing out. I woke up on the living room floor just before sunrise, cold, stiff, the front door wide open. Morning light poured in like nothing had happened. I laughed hysterically, grabbed my keys and left without looking back. I stayed with a friend for a week. When I finally returned to pack my things, the house felt normal, quiet, empty, until I reached the bedroom. On the wall beside the bed, faint impressions marred the paint, hand-shaped depressions, too many, overlapping, like someone had been pressing against it from the inside, listening. As I closed the door for the last time, the floor creaked behind me. I froze. The sound didn't answer back. It waited. And sometimes, late at night in my new place, when I shift in bed, the walls creak just once in response.
I used to believe that if something truly dangerous lived near you, you'd feel it immediately. A gut instinct, a warning. But real criminals don't arrive like monsters. They arrive quietly. They blend in. They let you feel safe first. I moved into the duplex in early spring. 2 units, one above the other. I took the bottom floor because it was cheaper and had a small basement I could use for storage. The landlord mentioned the upstairs tenant only once. Quiet guy, keeps to himself. That sounded perfect. For the first few weeks, I barely noticed him. No loud music, no parties, just the occasional footstep overhead, always slow, always deliberate. Then I started hearing things late at night. Not footsteps, dragging. It happened around the same time every night, just after midnight. Something heavy being pulled across the floor above me. It would stop, pause, then continue. I told myself it was furniture, a treadmill, something normal, until I noticed the timing. It always began when I turned my bedroom light off. The first night I tested it, I left the light on and pretended to sleep. No dragging, no sound. The moment I reached over and clicked the lamp off, the dragging started. My skin prickled. A week later, I woke up to a soft tapping sound, faint, rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the ceiling directly above my bed. I lay still, holding my breath, listening. The tapping stopped. Then, slowly, it resumed, following the outline of my bed. I moved to the couch after that. The next morning, I found dust scattered across my nightstand, fine, gray dust. Plaster. I checked the ceiling. Tiny pin-sized holes dotted the surface, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. I called the landlord. He promised to check it out. That night, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Someone stopped outside my door. No knock, just standing there. I watched the shadow beneath the door, heart hammering, waiting for the handle to turn. It didn't. The footsteps retreated upstairs. The dragging didn't happen that night. Instead, I heard something worse. Scraping. Metal on wood. Directly above me. The following day, I bought a small camera and set it up in my bedroom, aimed at the ceiling. I felt ridiculous doing it, but fear has a way of lowering your standards. I left for work.
When I came back, the camera was still running, but the footage wasn't right. Hours of nothing. Then, around 12:07 a.m., the ceiling shifted. Not cracked, lowered, just slightly, enough to notice. Then, a dark circle appeared in one of the pinholes. An eye, unblinking, watching. I called the police. They arrived that night, searched the upstairs unit, and found the tenant cooperative, calm, almost bored. No weapons, no holes, no evidence. They suggested I was stressed. The landlord suggested I move my bed. I didn't sleep. 2 nights later, the dragging returned. This time, it didn't stop. It moved back and forth above me for hours, accompanied by soft breathing that filtered down through the vents. At 3:14 a.m., something wet dripped onto my face. I screamed and jumped out of bed. The ceiling above me was darkened, stained. I grabbed my phone flashlight and looked closer. The stain was seeping through, from above. I ran. The police came again. This time, they cut into the ceiling. What they found ended the conversation permanently. The man upstairs had built a crawl system between the floors, narrow wooden tracks reinforced with metal rails, observation holes drilled directly above my bed, shower, couch. Underneath his floorboards, they found bags, clothes that weren't mine, phones, ID cards, photos of me, hundreds of them, sleeping, showering, eating, and worse, notebooks, schedules, notes written in neat, careful handwriting. Light off, 12:02. Breathing slows, 12:09. Dreaming? Possibly. In the basement, behind a false wall I didn't know existed, they found a room. Soundproofed. Cleaned. Recently. Too recently. The man was arrested that night. The news called him a suspected serial stalker. They never charged him for murder. No bodies were found. But sometimes that feels worse. I moved away. New city, new apartment, higher floor. I check the ceiling every night. Sometimes when I turn off the light, I imagine I hear dragging above me, and I never sleep with the lights off anymore. Because monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they wait patiently, just above you.
My phone died at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I checked it twice, annoyed at myself for not charging it earlier. A storm had rolled in fast, heavy rain, thunder close enough to rattle the windows. The power flickered once, then went out completely. No lights, no Wi-Fi, no signal. Just darkness and the sound of rain hammering the roof. I set the phone on the nightstand anyway out of habit and lay back down. I told myself I didn't need it. I'd fall asleep to the storm like I always did. That's when I heard the knock. 3 slow taps on the front door. I sat up, heart already racing. Nobody knocks that late where I live, especially not during a storm. I listened. Nothing. I waited a full minute, then another. Finally, I got up and checked the window beside the door, pulling the curtain back just enough to peek out. The porch was empty. No footprints, no shadow retreating into the rain. I locked the door again, double-checked it, and went back to bed. At 12:13 a.m., my phone vibrated. I stared at it, frozen. The screen lit up. Voicemail, 1 new message. Timestamp, 12:12 a.m. That wasn't possible. The phone was dead, I was sure of it. I picked it up, expecting the screen to go black. It didn't. The battery icon was gone entirely. No percentage, no charging symbol. Just the screen, glowing faintly. My fingers shook as I pressed play. At first, there was only static. Then, I heard breathing. My breathing. Slow, careful, like I was trying not to make a sound. I whispered in the message, "Please don't open it." My stomach dropped. In the background, barely audible, was the sound of rain and something else. Knocking. 3 taps. The voicemail ended.
My phone screen went black. I didn't move for a long time. I told myself it was a prank, a delayed recording, stress, anything that made sense. Then, the knocking came again. 3 slow taps on the front door. I stayed in bed, holding my breath, staring at the dark hallway. The knocks didn't repeat. Minutes passed. Then my phone vibrated again. This time, the screen stayed dark, but I heard it anyway, from the nightstand drawer. Vibration, soft, insistent. I opened the drawer. The phone was cold to the touch, completely unresponsive. And yet, a new voicemail appeared on the screen when it lit up again. Timestamp, 12:26 a.m. I didn't want to play it. I did anyway. My voice again, closer this time, strained. "I see him," I whispered. "Keep it shut." In the recording, my breathing hitched. Then, a sound I recognized immediately. My front doorknob turning. I dropped the phone. At that exact moment, the doorknob in real life twisted. Slow. I slid out of bed and backed into the corner of the room, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The handle stopped turning. Footsteps moved away. Not outside. Inside the house. Soft steps, bare feet on hardwood. My phone vibrated again. I didn't touch it this time. The voicemail played on its own. "He's inside," my voice whispered. "I didn't lock it fast enough." The recording ended with a soft sound, a door opening. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. The footsteps stopped outside my bedroom. I could feel someone standing there, waiting. My phone vibrated again. Timestamp, 12:41 a.m. I shook my head, whispering, "No, no, no!" The message played. This time, my voice was crying. "I'm in the bedroom," I said. "I don't think he knows yet." There was a pause in the recording. Then, another voice. Not mine. Low, calm, right next to the phone's microphone. "Now I do." The bedroom door creaked. I screamed and bolted past it, sprinting down the hallway and out the back door into the rain. I didn't stop running until I reached a neighbor's house and collapsed on their porch, pounding on the door until they answered. The police came. They searched my house. Found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no one hiding inside. They said the storm probably caused an electrical surge, that stress can do strange things to memory. They suggested I get some sleep. I stayed with my neighbor that night. At dawn, I went back with them to grab some clothes. My phone was still on the nightstand. Dead. No new messages. I packed quickly and left. I changed my locks the next day, installed cameras, kept the lights on at night. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. I almost convinced myself it was over. Then, one night, as I lay in bed, my new phone buzzed. One voicemail. No number. No timestamp. I didn't play it. I didn't have to. From the hallway outside my room, I heard my own voice whisper softly, "You should have listened to yourself."
I took the highway because it was faster. That was the lie I told myself later, anyway. The truth is, I'd had a long day and didn't want to deal with traffic lights, pedestrians, or anything that required attention. The highway at night felt empty, predictable. Just a ribbon of asphalt stretching forward, lit by headlights and nothing else. I was driving alone, windows up, radio low. Around 12:30 a.m., I passed the last gas station for miles. I remember thinking I should stop. My fuel gauge was hovering just above empty. I didn't. The road narrowed slightly as it cut through a stretch of forest. No houses, no exit signs, just reflective markers flashing past in steady rhythm. That's when my phone rang. No signal bars, no service. The call came through anyway. I didn't answer it. I let it ring until it stopped. A mile later, my radio cut to static. Then a voice broke through. "Can you slow down?" It wasn't a broadcast. It wasn't distorted enough. It sounded like it was coming from inside the car. I glanced at the passenger seat. Empty. I told myself it was fatigue, long hours, my brain misfiring. I kept driving. In the rearview mirror, something moved. Not a car, not headlights. A shape, low to the ground, keeping pace. When I sped up, it sped up. When I slowed down, it stayed just behind me. My pulse hammered as I focused on the road ahead. The radio crackled again. "I don't like when you go this fast," the voice said, calmly. I reached out and turned the radio off. The voice didn't stop. "I was closer back there," it said. "You didn't see me." I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly before stopping in the middle of the highway. Silence. I sat there shaking, listening for footsteps, breathing, anything. Nothing. I laughed shakily and put the car back in gear. That's when I felt it. Weight shifting in the passenger seat. The car dipped slightly to the right. A seatbelt clicked. I didn't look. "I usually ride in the back," the voice said, "but this is fine." I drove. I don't know how long. Minutes, miles, time stopped making sense. Every roadside looked unfamiliar. Every exit blurred past before I could read it. The presence beside me felt wrong. Not heavy, not warm. Aware. "I followed you from the station," it said. "You almost stopped." "I don't pick up strangers," I whispered. "I know. That's why I waited." The fuel warning light came on. The engine sputtered once. The car coasted. I pulled onto the shoulder, heart pounding, hands locked on the wheel. "I can walk from here," the voice said gently. The door handle on the passenger side moved. Then the back door. Then my door. All unlocked at once. I screamed and shoved the car door open, falling onto the pavement. When I looked up, the car was empty. No footprints, no movement, just my car idling quietly. I didn't drive the rest of the way home. I called a tow. I told them the car died. They asked where I was. I couldn't tell them. There were no signs, no mile markers, no signal. Eventually, headlights appeared. They towed my car. They never asked why the passenger seat belt was buckled. Now, when I drive at night, I keep the radio off. I never answer calls with no signal, and I always check the passenger seat before I start the engine. Because sometimes, you don't have to stop to let something in. Sometimes, it's already riding with you.
When the notice went up in the lobby, most people didn't hesitate. Temporary building closure, structural inspection, and repairs. Old wiring, water damage, safety concerns. Tenants were advised to relocate for several weeks while repairs were done floor by floor. Some complained, some panicked. Most packed up and left within days. I stayed. I worked remotely. I didn't have family nearby, and honestly, the idea of an almost empty building sounded peaceful. No noise, no interruptions, just quiet. The landlord didn't argue. "If you're comfortable," he said, a little too quickly, "just avoid the upper floors." That should have been my first warning. The first few nights were perfect. The elevator was silent. The hallways echoed softly when I walked. I could stand in my living room and hear my own breathing. For the first time in years, it felt like I truly lived alone. Then I heard footsteps. They came from the apartment above mine. Slow, careful, not heavy enough to be construction workers, not random enough to be pipes. Footsteps that paused, listened, then continued. I checked my phone. No notifications, no work emails, just the hum of silence. The unit above me was supposed to be empty. I knew that. I'd watched movers haul the last pieces of furniture out days earlier. Still, the footsteps returned the next night, always after midnight, always directly above my bedroom. I told myself it was residual noise, contractors moving equipment, the building settling, anything that let me sleep. Then the scratching started, soft at first, almost polite, behind the wall near my couch, under the floor near the kitchen, sometimes in the ceiling, tracing slow, uneven lines like someone mapping the space. I slept with the lights on after that. The noises didn't stop. They adjusted. They stayed just outside the light. One night, while brushing my teeth, I heard a voice. "Don't move." It wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. It was calm. The voice came from the wall beside the sink, close enough that I felt the vibration through the tile. I froze, toothpaste dripping down my chin, heart pounding so hard it made my ears ring. I didn't respond. Slowly, carefully, I backed out of the bathroom and shut the door. That night, I pushed furniture against my bedroom door. The next morning, the furniture was moved back. Not shoved, not disturbed, just repositioned neatly, like someone didn't want me to notice. After that, the apartment felt occupied in ways I couldn't explain. The couch cushion would be slightly indented when I returned from the kitchen. Cabinet doors I'd closed were open an inch. Dust near the vents looked disturbed, smudged with handprints that vanished when I looked too long. I started checking the other units. Floor by floor, I unlocked doors the landlord said were empty. They were hollow, cold, smelled like dust and old paint. No people, no signs of anyone living there, and yet I was never alone. I set up my laptop to record audio overnight. If nothing else, I needed proof I wasn't imagining it. That night, I lay in bed pretending to sleep. At 2:03 a.m., the footsteps began. But this time, they weren't above me. They were inside my apartment. Slow movement, bare feet against hardwood, someone stopping every few steps, listening. The recording captured breathing, then a whisper. "You're louder when you think you're alone." I didn't sleep after that. I stayed awake, lights on, phone in my hand, waiting for morning like it was rescue. The landlord stopped answering my calls. On the fourth night, I heard movement behind the refrigerator, a slow shift, a quiet scrape. I pulled it away from the wall. Behind it was a narrow opening I had never noticed before, a crawl space, dark, dusty, just wide enough for a person to slide through sideways. Inside, I saw drag marks, finger trails, and something else. Blankets, food wrappers, a pair of shoes that weren't mine. That night, I packed only what I could carry and left before sunrise. Weeks passed. The building reopened. New tenants moved in. Normal sounds returned. Life went on. I convinced myself it was over. Then I realized something worse. Nothing followed me because nothing needed to. Months later, I returned during the day to retrieve the last of my belongings. People were everywhere, laughing, moving furniture, living. The building felt harmless again. As I carried my final box towards the exit, I heard a whisper behind me. Soft, familiar. "You shouldn't have come back." I didn't turn around. I left the box where it was and walked out. Sometimes now, when I pass older apartment buildings, I wonder how many people stay behind when everyone else leaves. Not because they have nowhere to go, but because empty buildings make the best hiding places. And because once something learns how you live, it doesn't need to follow you. It already knows where to wait.
There's a specific kind of loneliness that settles in when you live alone long enough. Not sadness, not fear, just the quiet certainty that no one is watching you. That belief is what kept me sane until the night I saw myself outside.
It was late, just after 1 a.m. I remember because I checked the time, annoyed that sleep still hadn't come. The house was dark, except for the soft glow of the TV paused on a black screen. Rain streaked down the front window, blurring the street into wavering lines of orange and shadow. I stood up to shut the blinds. That's when I saw him. Someone walked past my living room window, close enough that I could see the details clearly. Same height, same jacket, same uneven gait, same face. He didn't look surprised to see me. He slowed as he passed the window, then stopped. Our eyes met. I couldn't move. He smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated, just enough to show he knew something I didn't. Then he continued walking, disappearing into the darkness beyond the porch light. My heart slammed against my ribs as I staggered backward, nearly tripping over the coffee table. I laughed once, loud and sharp, telling myself it was exhaustion, a trick of reflections, the TV screen, my mind filling in shapes. I rushed to the front door and yanked it open. The street was empty. Rain tapped against the pavement. Porch lights glowed. No footsteps, no retreating figure. I locked the door and checked every room in the house. Closet, bathroom, spare bedroom, basement door, all secure. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Mud on the inside of my front hallway. Bare footprints leading away from the door. I cleaned them up, hands shaking, and told myself someone must have tracked them in earlier, that I was panicking over nothing. I went to work, forced myself through the day. When I came home, the house felt off. Not disturbed, not broken into, just wrong. Like it had been occupied briefly, carefully. I checked my phone. One missed call. No number, no voicemail. That night, I locked my bedroom door. At 2:06 a.m., I heard the floorboard outside it creak. Slow, familiar. I held my breath. The doorknob didn't turn. Instead, I heard something worse. My own voice. "Don't be scared," it said softly. "I just wanted to see how you live." Tears slid down my face as I pressed my hands over my mouth. The voice sighed. "I always do that when you're scared." Footsteps moved away. The next few days blurred together. I barely slept, barely ate. I avoided mirrors because every time I caught my reflection, my chest tightened with the fear that it would blink when I didn't. I started noticing things out of place. My toothbrush damp when I hadn't used it, the shower curtain pulled closed instead of open, a chair at the kitchen table angled slightly differently. Then I found the note. It was tucked inside my nightstand drawer, folded neatly. "You lock the door now. You didn't before." I called the police. They searched the house, found nothing. No forced entry, no fingerprints that weren't mine. They suggested stress, sleep deprivation. I didn't tell them about the voice. I knew how it would sound. That night, I stayed awake in bed, staring at the door. At 3:11 a.m., the handle turned. The door didn't open, just tested, gently. Then my voice spoke from the other side. "You're in my room." I screamed. The door opened. He stood there in the dark. Me. Same scar on the chin, same tired eyes, same shaking hands. But his posture was wrong, too relaxed, like he belonged there more than I did. He looked around the room, nodding. "You changed a few things," he said. "I don't like that." "What are you?" I whispered. He smiled again. "I'm you," he said patiently, "the version that doesn't leave." I don't remember running, only waking up in the street, barefoot, rain soaking through my clothes, neighbors shouting. They found my front door wide open. The house was empty, no sign of anyone else. I moved out the next day. New city, new place.
No ground floor windows. Sometimes late at night, I'll catch my reflection in the glass, and for just a second, it smiles first, and somewhere behind me, I hear footsteps that match my own perfectly.
I don't have kids. That's important. When people hear baby monitor, they assume a nursery, a crib, something innocent. For me, it was just a cheap security solution. 2 small cameras with audio, sold as a set. One pointed at my front door, the other at the hallway outside my bedroom. I lived alone. Ground floor apartment, thin walls. It made me feel better knowing I could hear movement before I saw it. At first, the monitor did exactly what it was supposed to do. Static hum, occasional pops, the sound of my own footsteps when I walked past it. Boring, comforting. Then, one night, I heard breathing. Not loud, not panicked, slow, controlled. I was in bed, scrolling on my phone when the sound came through the monitor speaker on my nightstand. I held still, listening. The breathing stopped. I sat up and checked the live feed. The hallway was empty. No shadows, no movement. I muted the monitor and tried to sleep. The next night, it happened again. Breathing through the speaker, closer this time. I turned the volume up. That's when the whisper came. Too loud. I grabbed the monitor and stared at the screen. The hallway camera flickered once, then stabilized. Still empty. Hello? I whispered, feeling stupid immediately. The monitor crackled. Don't do that. It carries. I unplugged it. I told myself I was done with it. Faulty wiring, interference, cheap electronics picking up radio chatter. Except the next night, I heard the sound anyway. Not from the monitor, from the hallway. Bare feet on carpet. One slow step, then another. I locked my bedroom door and sat on the bed until morning, lights on, heart racing. The next day, I packed the monitor back into its box. I planned to return it. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I plugged it back in. The screen came to life instantly. The hallway camera was already on. Someone was standing just outside my bedroom door, not facing the camera, facing the door, my door. I couldn't see their face, just the back of their head and shoulders. Too still, too patient. I watched, frozen, as the figure leaned slightly forward. The speaker hissed. You didn't mute it this time. I clamped a hand over my mouth. The figure in the hallway shifted its weight. I can hear your heart. It's fast tonight. My phone slipped from my hand onto the mattress. The figure's head tilted. There, the whisper whispered. That sound. The doorknob turned, not enough to open the door, just enough to test it. I screamed and bolted for the window, shoving it open and climbing halfway out before my foot caught. I fell onto the grass outside, twisting my ankle hard enough to make me cry out. Neighbors' lights came on. Someone shouted. By the time the police arrived, the apartment was empty. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no fingerprints that didn't belong to me. They asked about the monitor. I showed them the footage. The screen showed an empty hallway. No figure, no movement, no audio. They exchanged a look and asked if I'd been sleeping well. I moved out 2 days later. New place, new building, higher floor. I threw the monitor away. Months passed. The fear faded into something dull and distant, something I could convince myself wasn't real. Until one night, my phone buzzed. A notification. New device connected to your network. I frowned. I hadn't added anything. The device name made my stomach drop. Hallway monitor. I deleted the network, reset the router, turned the phone off. That night, I lay in bed in the dark, listening. At exactly 2:11 a.m., I heard it. Breathing. Not from a speaker, from the space just outside my bedroom door. Then a whisper, so soft it barely disturbed the air. You moved the door. I liked the old one better. The floor creaked. A slow step. Closer. I don't use smart devices anymore. No cameras, no speakers, no monitors. But sometimes, when my apartment is perfectly quiet, I swear I can hear static, and beneath it, someone listening, waiting for me to make a sound.
I noticed the feeling before I noticed anything else. That prickle at the back of your neck, the quiet certainty that your space isn't as empty as it should be. I brushed it off at first. Long shift, late night, too much caffeine, and not enough sleep. I left work just after midnight. The streets were mostly empty, washed clean by a light rain that made the streetlights glow too brightly. My footsteps echoed louder than usual, every sound amplified by the quiet. I took my usual route home. Halfway down the block, I heard footsteps behind me. I slowed. They slowed. I stopped. They stopped too. I told myself it was coincidence, another late-night walker, someone keeping distance. I crossed the street. A few seconds later, the footsteps crossed too. My heartbeat picked up. I glanced at the dark windows lining the road. No movement. No reflections I could trust. I turned down a side street I almost never used. The footsteps followed. I didn't look back again. Instead, I focused on getting home. My building was only 2 blocks away. I fumbled for my keys as I reached the entrance, heart pounding. The footsteps stopped when I did. I waited. Nothing. I unlocked the door and slipped inside, locking it behind me with shaking hands. The hallway was empty. I laughed quietly, relief flooding in, and headed up to my apartment. Inside, I locked the door, kicked off my shoes, and leaned against it, breathing hard. The feeling didn't go away. It intensified, like pressure building behind my eyes. I checked the windows, locked. The bathroom, empty. The closet, clear. I told myself I was safe. That's when I noticed my reflection. In the hallway mirror, something was wrong. It lagged. Not by much, a fraction of a second, but enough that I noticed. I raised my hand. My reflection followed, just a beat too late. I stepped closer to the mirror. So did it. But when I stopped, it didn't. It smiled. Not wide, not obvious, just enough. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The lights flickered. I turned them on and off again. Normal. The mirror showed me. Perfectly still. No smile. I went to bed with the lights on. Sleep came in shallow bursts, dragged under by exhaustion. I woke to the sound of my front door unlocking. I shot upright in bed. The sound came again. A soft click. Then, the door opened, slowly. Footsteps crossed the living room, careful, familiar. I held my breath as they stopped outside my bedroom door. The handle turned. The door opened a few inches. I could see the hallway light spilling in. No one stood there. The door closed again. In the morning, everything was normal. The door was locked, the chain untouched. No signs of entry. I told myself it was a dream. That night, the feeling returned the moment I stepped inside my apartment. Stronger, heavier. I checked the mirror. My reflection was already there, watching. I stopped using mirrors after that, covered them, avoided reflective surfaces, slept with the lights on. It didn't matter, because whatever followed me home didn't need reflections to move. It began leaving signs. A chair pulled out at the table, the shower warm when I hadn't used it, my phone unlocked on the counter. Then the footsteps started, always behind me, always stopping when I turned. I tried leaving again, spent a night at a friend's place. The feeling followed. I felt it sitting on the couch beside me, standing behind me in the bathroom, watching me sleep from the doorway. It didn't belong to a place. It belonged to me. The final sign came a week later. I woke up to find muddy footprints on my bedroom floor. They didn't lead to the door. They led to my bed, and there was only one set. That night, as I lay frozen under the blankets, I felt the mattress dip beside me. Breathing matched mine, slow, patient. A whisper brushed my ear. "You noticed too late." I understand now. Nothing followed me home. It was never behind me. It was always walking where I should have been. And now, there's no space left for both of us.